Good afternoon, guys. Welcome back to Morgan Hill Farms. It is a beautiful afternoon here, very windy in South Carolina today. We did actually just get through with a really big cold snap. I think we got down to like the mid-20s at night. And because we've been so incredibly warm this fall season, I was really worried that a lot of my crops, my things like my carrots and my cabbage and my parsley was going to have some damage on it. Sometimes when you have that big of a temperature shift, even when you have those cold tolerant plants, those cold varieties, they can actually get pretty damaged if they're not used to it, but everything did really well. So I was really happy about that. I did end up rolling a lot of my vertical green stock gardens into the garage, the things with my spinach and beets and lettuce and things like that. And then of course my lemon tree and my lime trees went into the garage. They're all back out now because we are sitting back in the 60s and 70s, and they're not really calling for another freezing night for at least 10 days, but if they do change that, I'll just put them back in the garage, and that's a super easy way to extend your season. And even though it seems like, you know, we're deep into fall, getting close to winter, the spring season is going to be upon us really quickly, guys. I actually got my first official seed catalog in the mail for the 2026 year, and so that's super exciting. I can't wait to sit down with a blanket and a cup of tea and just kind of look through those. They have so many different seeds. These companies offer so many different varieties. And honestly, picking the right variety for your area, things that grow in your climate, can have a huge impact on how successful your garden is. Like for instance, if you live in South Carolina like I do and you want to grow broccoli in the springtime, you're going to need a variety that's really heat tolerant, because we get so hot so quick that typical broccoli will just bolt. So you want to choose the right variety for that. Also things like summer squash. If I choose the correct variety, I don't have to succession sow that. Certain plants will just remain disease-free and they're resistant to those squash vine borers. And so that takes a little bit of work off my plate. So definitely do some research with that, and definitely do a seed inventory. That's something that I need to do. Not my favorite thing to do. It's quite time consuming, but I want to make sure that I know what I'm out of, what I need to order, and what I don't need, because seeds can get pretty pricey, and with the way that the economy is, Nate and I are making sure that we're watching every penny right now. Over the past couple of months, I have been a little relaxed on watching my spending. I really have not been paying attention, and when I finally took the time to sit down and add it all up, I realized that last month I spent $1,000 on groceries. And although that probably doesn't sound like much for a family of 6, when you're growing as much food as I am here, there's no reason I should be spending that much on groceries. I really should be closer to about a $300 budget. So I think that it's really important that everybody's kind of looking at their bank accounts, making sure that they know what they're spending their money on. Because if you guys haven't been keeping track of the economy right now, I think you're gonna be pretty surprised. In just the month of October, more people were laid off than we've seen in decades. 153,000 people lost their jobs. We haven't seen a month like that in about 22 years. And for some reason, layoffs just skyrocketed in October. They're up 183% from September. And honestly, it's pretty concerning. Companies don't just lay off 150,000 employees in a single month unless something's seriously wrong. I guess we could blame the fact that we have a weak consumer. Of course, the cost of everything, the cost to do business is really expensive, but neither one of those are the reason that these layoffs are happening. Most of the companies that are cutting jobs right now are actually having record profits. They're meeting their sales goals, and they're doing it month after month after month. So why in the world would they be cutting your workforce? When you're making the type of revenue that these companies are seeing right now, you don't just eliminate your workers unless you're replacing them with something. And I think you guys know where I'm going with this. It's AI. And that's not just me making a wild guess here. AI is actually the #1 reason that these companies are giving for their job cuts right now. They're eliminating your job, taking away your income, your ability to put a roof over your head, food on the table, and at the same time, they're celebrating it. Amazon literally sent out a memo to their employees at the same time that they're cutting thousands of jobs, and they called AI the most transformative technology that they've seen since the internet. Another company is UPS. They just cut 48,000 jobs. And honestly, that made no sense to me when I heard it. I'm thinking, why in the world would a shipping company cut people right before the busiest holiday season of the year. This is the time where you and I see those brown trucks running back and forth. They're in everybody's driveway, dropping off packages day and night. So why would they cut employees right now? According to them, it's because of the opportunity to invest in certain technologies. I guess that sounds nice. Perhaps you'll feel a little better when you go in the office and they tell you that your job no longer exists. You'll feel a little better hearing that than them telling you that, you know, they've got a new AI system and so they just don't need you anymore. Other companies like Starbucks, Target, GM, Nestle. I literally feel like I could stand here all day, guys, and just give you a list of the companies that are cutting jobs. Manufacturing cuts are up 378% from last year. Retail is up 145%. And if these numbers are making your head spin and you're not quite putting it all together, let me just connect the dots for you. There is no coming back from this. We are about to see unemployment explode, and these numbers will never again be in the single digits. There is no light at the end of the tunnel. Corporations are not going to be rehiring the workforce that they just laid off, because for most companies, it's not about lost revenue. It's about replacing your job with AI. There's not going to be that conversation of we'll bring you back when times get better. I really feel like this is the beginning of the end. You know, they say unemployment is like 4.3%. I definitely think it's a lot higher than that. But even 10%, I think we're going to look back in a year's time and think that a 10% unemployment rate is very attractive. We won't be seeing single-digit unemployment once this whole AI thing takes hold. It's literally going to put us into a forever depression. And this is why Nate and I aren't spending a dime right now on anything that isn't 100% necessary. I've been dying to go to Costco because that's where I get my lettuce from. You can get a pack of 6 romaine heads for like $5. But I know that if I make that trip into that store, I'm gonna come home with a rotisserie chicken. I'm gonna come home with laundry detergent. My As Your Standard order, I've let that deadline come and go for like the past few months because that's a $400 to $500 expense. And I just don't want to see that money go out of our bank account. And it's not like any of these purchases that I'm making are luxury or frivolous items. These are all good things to spend your money on. But I'm just not willing to let any additional money go out that doesn't have to. I'm just gonna have to make some sacrifices. Maybe I can replace, you know, our lettuce with escarole. It might be a little bit bitter, but it might do the job. You know, I also have spinach that I can use. Instead of using liquid laundry detergent, I can start to make my own with ingredients that I bought a couple years ago that have just been sitting in my cabinet in my laundry room. It's just that I've kind of become a little bit lazy, and it's so much easier to grab that jug of laundry detergent from the store than to take the time to make our own. But every dollar that I save right now brings me closer to making our mortgage payment if we lost our income. And that's something we're definitely thinking about. I hope you guys are too. Like, what would you do if your income was suddenly gone? Do you have an emergency fund that maybe you could pay like 3 to 6 months of bills with? Because most Americans don't. And the ones that say that they do only have around $500 for an emergency. That's about enough to pay my wintertime electric bill and maybe my water bill. $500 is not enough to get you by. And it's really important that you guys actually figure out. You sit down, you look at what your bills cost per month, you look at how much money it's gonna cost you to put food on your table, and start to plan an emergency fund. Because I think a lot of us are gonna start to see this become our reality in the next few months, maybe into next year. You need to be saving up as much as possible right now. If you lose your job, there's no guarantee that you're gonna be able to replace it. And I know that I'm saying this at a time where people are struggling. You're probably shaking your head saying, how in the world are people gonna put money aside for an emergency fund? How are you supposed to find extra money for that? People are stretched so thin right now. It's not only Hamburger Helper and frozen pizza sales that are up at the grocery store, but the sales of rice and beans both just went through the roof. That's the absolute cheapest food, survival food, that no one wants to eat. And that's what people are being forced to put on their tables to feed their kids. And even with that, most Americans are using buy now, pay later loans to purchase their groceries. And 41% of them can't even pay those loans back. That's a huge percentage of people in default. Like, imagine if you owned a bank and 40% of your customers defaulted on their loans. People literally cannot get to their next paycheck without going further into debt. Most Americans spend half of their paycheck just in the first 48 hours of getting it. And if you're a millennial, those are the people between the ages of 30 to 44, the ones that probably have a few kids running around that they're trying to take care of and support, they spend half of their paycheck within the first 12 hours of receiving it. I feel like we're literally grasping for straws on how to put the most basic of foods on our table. People are lining up at food banks at 2:30 in the morning because it's first come, first serve, and they can't bear the thought of not having that food. This is going to be the end of the road for a lot of people. One missed paycheck is all it's going to take. And let me just sum this up for you guys. Americans can barely feed their families. Food costs and pretty much every other bill that you have is almost impossible to cover right now. Credit card debt, auto loan delinquency, mortgage delinquency, they're at levels we've never seen before. And every day it's more and more likely that you're gonna walk in the office on Monday morning and you're gonna walk right back out with a pink slip. But yet they're reporting that Americans are planning on spending more for Christmas this year than they ever have. Why in the world do we keep doing this? Things get worse and worse every year, but yet we can't seem to let our children not receive that Xbox that they've been asking for. We just can't bear it. I guess we're gonna figure out another way to put food on the table because the kids deserve toys. And I know that that sounds incredibly harsh, but at some point, guys, we have to open our eyes. And my advice to you is get your house in order. Pay off your debts as quickly as you can. You might need to start thinking about a second job. I know I have. How else can I bring money into our house? I mean, we're okay right now, but what happens when I'm not? What happens when you're not? And I think that we really need to do everything that we can right now because we're running out of time. Christmas this year for us is gonna look a lot different. It's gonna be a lot smaller, more handmade gifts, more time together. But I think just because there's not as many presents under the Christmas tree, that doesn't mean that it's not gonna be amazing. Because honestly, I would rather have less gifts underneath that tree and more peace of mind knowing that I can pay the bills for next month and that I can feed my family. But anyways, guys, I hope you're watching how this all plays out. I hope you're paying attention. There is so much going on right now. You really don't want to be caught off guard. So I hope you guys take my advice. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I will see you in the next video.